I was kicked out at 16 after my brother spread vicious lies about me, and my parents abandoned me without a second thought. Years later, I built a thriving career and a beautiful home. Now they've shown up demanding money, expecting their child to bail them out of the mess they created. I'm a 28-year-old woman with a twin brother, and even though we grew up in the same house, our childhoods couldn't have been more different. For some reason, our parents were completely convinced that my brother was destined for greatness, while I was just the black sheep. I wasn't obsessed with studying like he was. I preferred playing sports or hanging out with friends, and they never let me forget it. The constant comparisons crushed my confidence early on. Every year on our birthday, he got big parties with all his friends, while I was basically forgotten. He could have sleepovers whenever he wanted, but I wasn't even allowed to invite friends over. Honestly, I hated every second of growing up in that house. The only person who truly showed me love was my grandmother. When she visited, she always brought me my favorite chocolates and would sometimes slip me a few dollars so I could buy myself something later. As we got older, the favoritism turned into something darker. My parents started emotionally abusing me. They'd mock my grades, trash the things I enjoyed, and make it painfully clear that I wasn't who they wanted me to be. Even though I was good at sports, they banned me from joining any extracurriculars because they wanted me to focus on studying, just like my brother. I felt trapped and powerless. Then, during my sophomore year, I got grounded again, this time just for having Snapchat on my phone. I hadn't done anything wrong. I downloaded the app like most teens, just to keep in touch with my friends. But my parents acted like I'd committed a crime. They flipped out, trashed my room, and even took the door off its hinges. They told me I didn't deserve privacy if I was living under their roof. My brother watched all this happen, and instead of helping me, he made everything worse. The toxic environment let him manipulate everything to his advantage. He started lying about me, blaming me for things he did so he could avoid getting in trouble. If he stole something, he'd just say I did it, and our parents would believe him without question. He humiliated me in front of my friends and made fun of how I looked. Still, I had a solid group of friends at school because I was friendly and easy to talk to. My twin, on the other hand, struggled socially. He hated that I could connect with people while he felt awkward and introverted. His jealousy exploded on our 14th birthday. None of his friends showed up to celebrate with him, but my friends surprised me with ice cream and a fun day out. That set him off. As payback, he started spreading disgusting lies about me at school. He told people I was violent, that I was beating him up at home, and that I was some spoiled brat. I didn't even know what was happening at first. He went as far as punching himself, giving himself black eyes or bruises, and then showing them off like I'd done it. At school, he'd pretend to be this poor victim, and when our parents asked, he'd lie and say it happened during football practice or something harmless. People started to believe him. Whispers spread. Friends who used to laugh with me in the hallways now avoided me. I stopped getting invited to hangouts. It was like someone had flipped a switch, and suddenly I was this outcast no one wanted to be around. Eventually, I asked my former best friend what had changed. That's when she told me everything, how my brother had been spreading stories about me, accusing me of things I'd never even imagined doing. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I couldn't believe my own twin, someone I'd shared a childhood with, was doing this to me. It was betrayal on a level I wasn't prepared for. The next day at school, I confronted him. I asked him to stop. I begged him. But he just smirked and said I deserved to rot alone. I was terrified. His lies were starting to shape how the world saw me. I wanted to tell my parents, but I knew they'd take his side like always. The isolation got worse. Teachers started to act strange around me. It felt like I was living in an alternate reality, one where none of the good things about me mattered, and the lies were all people believed. My brother's stories weren't just gossip anymore. They were rewriting my identity. Eventually, word reached the principal, and my worst nightmare became real. He called both of us into his office, along with our parents, to address the situation. My heart was racing. I hoped, maybe for once, my brother would tell the truth. But no, he doubled down. He told them all that the rumors were true, that I was a bully who attacked him whenever no one was watching. I sat there stunned while he spun this horrifying tale, claiming I hated him for being the favorite. And the worst part? My parents believed every word. My brother had twisted the truth so thoroughly that no one even questioned him. It was all lies. Every single bit of it, but he stuck to his story like glue. My mom started crying when she heard what my brother said, clinging to him like he was some kind of hero. My dad tried to comfort him, telling him how brave he was for speaking up, promising nothing bad would ever happen to him again. I tried to defend myself, begging the principal to believe me, that none of it was true. It felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies, struggling to reach the surface. But my brother kept pushing his story, painting me as this angry, violent person who took out my frustrations on him every day. My mom kept crying, holding him tightly and shooting me looks like I was the villain. It was like talking to a wall. No one even questioned his story. The principal scolded me hard, saying the school had zero tolerance for bullying and this was serious enough to warrant a suspension. I pleaded with him not to do it. Tears were pouring down my face as I told him over and over that I never hurt my brother. But he just shook his head and told me I'd be suspended for 10 days so others would see that bullying has consequences. It crushed me. I cried harder, begging him to please reconsider. My parents, furious and embarrassed, dragged me out of the office. I didn't want to go. I wanted to fight back, to explain, to make them understand. But they weren't listening. When we got home, everything changed in an instant. My dad suddenly started packing my things. I stood there in shock, totally confused. My mom asked what he was doing, and he snapped that he couldn't let me live under the same roof as my brother anymore. I was crying, practically on my knees, begging my brother to tell the truth, but he just stood there, cold and silent. My dad kept packing, then threw my suitcase into the foyer. I grabbed his legs, pleading not to be thrown out. It felt like a nightmare. He told me that a bully like me didn't deserve to live in his house. He said he'd call his mother, my grandma, to come get me if she wanted to. I stood there, broken, surrounded by my belongings. I was being kicked out of my own home. Eventually, my grandma showed up. She helped me gather my stuff, got me in the car, buckled my seatbelt, and then walked up to the front door. She rang the bell, and when my dad opened it, she tore into him. She yelled at him for treating me like that. Calm but firm, she warned that if he ever tried to contact me again, she'd go straight to the police or CPS. She said what he did could land him in jail. My mom tried to shift the blame, saying it was my fault. But my grandma wasn't having it. She stood up for me, saying I was just a child who didn't deserve such cruelty. That was the first time I realized how strong she really was. She didn't back down. She believed me when no one else did. We left that house, my home, the only one I'd ever known. I can't even describe the pain I felt. I cried for days, barely eating, no matter how much my grandma encouraged me. When I told her what my brother had done, she was stunned, but she never doubted me. I finally had one person in my corner. When the 10-day suspension ended, going back to school felt like walking into a lion's den. The hallways were filled with whispers and judgmental stares. The weight of the lies still hung in the air. My brother ignored me completely, acting like I didn't exist. He had made friends who believed him, who saw him as the victim. No matter how hard I tried to explain my side, no one listened. I was labeled the bully. That label stuck to me like a shadow I couldn't shake. I became a loner. I kept my head down, went to class, ate lunch alone, and went straight home. No one talked to me. It was like I didn't belong there. My parents never once called to check on me. My grandma kept reminding me that none of this was my fault and that things would get better. I graduated with good grades and looked forward to college, my chance to finally start over. College was the first time I felt free. No one was breathing down my neck. No comparisons. No competition. I made friends with people who really got me. Even with all the emotional scars, I tried to focus on enjoying life again. That's when I discovered content writing. I'd always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't think it could actually be a career. Still, I needed extra money, so I started freelancing, taking small jobs on different sites. Over time, I built a solid portfolio. Throughout college, I stuck with freelancing and never once asked my parents for help. When I graduated, I realized I didn't need a regular 9 to 5. I already had clients who trusted me with long-term work and brought me into multiple projects. Freelancing gave me financial independence and something more. It gave me the freedom to travel. I became a digital nomad, healing slowly as I explored the world. It wasn't easy, but I saved everything I could and bet on myself. I've seen so many places now and still have more to go. Through all of it, my grandmother has been the only family I've truly had. I adore her. She was heartbroken when I moved out, but she understood I needed to find my own way. No matter how busy I got, I always made time for her. I'd visit on weekends, share meals, talk on the porch for hours. Sometimes I'd help her around the house or go with her to the park. We had our own quiet rhythm. Recently, I finished the biggest project of my career. I can't name the brand just yet. I was incredibly lucky to get the chance to write blogs and product descriptions for them. Once the project wrapped up, I asked the team I worked with to leave positive reviews on my website, and they were more than happy to do it. I took screenshots of a few reviews and posted them on Instagram, knowing that landing this brand as a client was a big deal. Just as I hoped, a lot of fellow content writers reached out to congratulate me and even reposted my story to help spread the word. That's when I started receiving DMs from strangers looking for help with their websites. Even my relatives took notice. Some messaged me to offer their congratulations. Eventually, I was contacted by my college principal. He'd seen my progress and invited me to speak at a seminar to inspire students interested in content writing. Public speaking isn't my strength, so I was nervous, but I decided to take the leap and accept. Standing in front of eager students, sharing my journey, felt surreal, like things had come full circle. I spoke honestly about my struggles, how I stayed afloat during tough times, and what it took to grow. It felt incredible to uplift others and give back to the writing community. Clips of my speech began going viral in Facebook groups. People really connected with it. It felt good to finally be recognized for the hard work I'd been doing. Then, just last week, I was invited to speak on a local news channel. The show focused on the benefits of content writing, and they wanted me to share my journey. I was a little anxious, but also excited. On the show, I talked about the importance of client reviews, how appreciation posts can open doors, and what it's like to build a career from scratch. The chance to reach a wider audience and hopefully inspire more people was both humbling and thrilling. When the episode aired, I proudly shared clips on my Instagram. That's when more relatives and cousins started realizing how far I'd come. You see, my parents had never really talked about me to anyone, so no one in my family knew I was working with big brands or appearing on TV. But the news spread fast. I'm guessing the interview eventually reached my parents, too. Just a few days later, while I was working on another project with my phone on silent, I checked it to find 6 missed calls from my mom. I was stunned. It had been so long since I'd last heard from her. I didn't know why she was suddenly calling me. Still, I hesitantly called her back, and she picked up right away. I asked if everything was okay. She started congratulating me, and I could hear my dad in the background, jumping into the call to ask how I was doing. I answered their questions without thinking much of it, until they started asking how much I was earning. I told them that wasn't any of their business. My dad responded, "We're family. You shouldn't feel shy telling us." I said I was doing well financially. That's when things took a turn. My mom started saying how hard their life had become. I raised an eyebrow. "Mom, we're retired now and we've been wanting to renovate the house. It's in bad shape. But we don't have any savings left." Me, "Okay, Mom. Mom, after watching your TV interview, we felt hopeful. We thought maybe you could help by paying for the renovations." "Dad, we're family. You shouldn't hesitate to share some of your earnings with us. We really need your help." Me, "Are you serious right now? You're asking me for money when you haven't even spoken to me in years?" "I appreciate the congratulations, but I'm not helping you." That's when my mom got emotional and started accusing me of being selfish, saying it was my duty to support them. My dad backed her up, insisting they deserved to be taken care of. I was furious, but instead of arguing, I decided it was time they learned a lesson for thinking they could suddenly lean on me after treating me so poorly for so long. So I made them an offer. I told them I'd help, but only if they agreed to one condition. My dad asked what it was. Without hesitation, I told them they had to publicly admit to our family and friends that my brother was the one who spread the damaging lies that ruined my reputation. I wanted them to humiliate him just like they had humiliated me by believing his manipulations. They needed to own their actions and acknowledge the pain they'd caused. My dad questioned why such a confession was necessary. My mom tried to say we could settle things privately, but I held firm. This was non-negotiable, no help unless they told the truth. As things got tense, my dad raised his voice, demanding respect as my father and claiming it was my duty to help. My mom made a final plea, reminding me of the years they spent raising me. But I reminded them it was my grandmother who raised me, not them. They got more upset, but I stayed firm. If they wanted a relationship with me, or my help, they had to acknowledge the truth, and my brother had to face the consequences. Since that day, my parents have been blowing up my phone with calls, but I haven't answered. Honestly, I regret ever calling them back. Now I wonder, would I really be a terrible person if I chose not to help them at all? Update 1. It's been a whirlwind of a week since I shared my story, and the outpouring of support has been overwhelming. I can't express how much it means to me to hear from so many people who understand. I'm not going through this alone, and I'm genuinely relieved that everyone around me agrees I shouldn't engage with my parents or even consider helping them after everything they've done to me. The only reason I gave them that condition was because I knew it was nearly impossible for them to meet it. They love my brother too much. And even though they've probably figured out by now that he lied, I know they'd never treat him the way they treated me. Today, my brother sent me a cruel message after my parents once again tried to reach out, and I refused to take their calls. Here's what he wrote. Hey sis, it's been a long time since I saw you, and honestly, every day without you in my life has been great. I heard mom and dad reached out and you gave them some insane ultimatum. You know they'll never go through with it, right? They never loved you, and they'll never hurt me. Yeah, I lied about you 15 years ago, but that was ages ago, get over it. Stop being so selfish and let go of the past. You're unmarried and childless anyway, so why can't you help out by covering some of the house repairs? Do the right thing. Be a better daughter. Reading that message felt like a knife to the heart. The nerve he had to dismiss everything I've been through and to act like the conditions I set were unreasonable showed just how little empathy he has. What really hit me was how he tried to shame me for not having a husband or kids, like that made me less worthy or more obligated. His suggestion that I should put their needs above my own well-being wasn't just insulting, it made it painfully clear how little he values me. Fueled by frustration and a deep need for justice, I decided it was time to speak up and reveal the truth I'd been carrying for far too long. I sat down and wrote an email to my parents and extended family. In it, I laid out the painful experiences from my childhood, the harsh, oppressive environment I lived in, and the way my parents always favored my twin brother over me. I described how my brother spread a disgusting, made-up rumor about me at school, how it ruined my reputation, and how my parents chose to believe him over me. They threw me out like I was nothing. If it weren't for my grandmother, I honestly don't know where I'd be, maybe dead on the streets. Near the end of the email, I asked everyone to read a screenshot I attached, my brother's message, where he admitted to lying about me. It was a full confession, and I hoped it would finally open people's eyes to the truth. I sent the email about an hour ago, and I'm sure things are about to explode when my family reads it. I'll update you once I hear back. Update number 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. As expected, my family lost it after receiving the email. My parents got serious backlash from relatives who never knew how deep the favoritism and emotional abuse ran. Several family members reached out to me, saying they were sorry they hadn't known what I was going through and that they wished they'd been there for me. On the other hand, my brother and parents flooded me with texts that quickly turned abusive and threatening. That's when I decided to contact a lawyer. My lawyer sent them a cease and desist letter, warning them to stop contacting me or face serious legal consequences. I guess that did the trick. They've been silent ever since. My grandmother told me she's proud of me for finally speaking up. She's always supported me and still does. Honestly, her support is all I need. Update 3. 2 months have passed since my last update, and I'm happy to say that life is going well. My content writing business is thriving. I've been getting more invites to speak at seminars and appear on podcasts, which has helped build my reputation even further. I'm closer than ever to my grandmother. I recently took a short break from work just to spend time with her. She's gotten really into gardening lately and taught me all about the flowers and herbs in her backyard. We shared meals, had long heart-to-heart talks, and just enjoyed each other's company. Those moments are now some of my most treasured memories. Since the lawyer's letter, my family hasn't tried to contact me again, which honestly feels like a blessing. I've also started going to therapy, and I'm hopeful that this journey will help me fully heal. I think this will be my final update for now. A few weeks ago, I started to reflect on everything that had happened, not just over the past few months, but over the years. The silence from my family has been a strange kind of relief. After years of chaos, manipulation, and emotional exhaustion, peace feels unfamiliar, but welcome. Therapy has been eye-opening. For the first time, I'm starting to unpack the emotional scars I carried for so long. I've begun to understand how deeply my childhood shaped the way I view myself and others. I used to blame myself for everything that went wrong, for not being good enough, for being the child my parents could discard. But now, I realize that I was never the problem. They were. My therapist and I have been working through the guilt, the anger, and especially the sense of worthlessness that's haunted me for years. I've started journaling regularly and creating small goals for myself, goals that aren't about proving anything to anyone but about healing and rediscovering who I am outside of the trauma. I've also been reconnecting with parts of my life that I lost during those years of emotional struggle. I took a painting class last week, just for fun, no pressure. I met a few kind, creative people there, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of belonging. It made me realize how many opportunities one missed while living in survival mode, just trying to keep myself together. And as strange as it may sound, I've started thinking about forgiveness, not for my family's sake, but for my own. I don't forgive them for what they did, at least not yet, but I'm learning to release the hold their actions had on me. Holding on to that pain for so long made it feel like my identity. But now I want to build a life that isn't defined by what they did or didn't do. My grandmother has been my anchor through all of this. Every day with her feels like a quiet reminder that unconditional love exists. She listens without judgment, supports me without trying to fix me, and reminds me through her actions that family isn't always about blood, it's about who shows up. She recently gave me a box of old letters and photos from when I was a child. Inside was a note she'd written years ago but never sent. In it, she said she always knew something wasn't right, but she didn't know how to help. She ended the letter by saying, "I may not have protected you the way you needed, but I'll never stop standing by you now." Reading that brought me to tears. It was the closure I didn't even realize I needed. Meanwhile, my professional life has continued to grow in ways I never expected. One of my articles on emotional abuse went viral, and it opened up a flood of messages from people who had gone through similar situations. Their words were powerful, some heartbreaking, others filled with hope. It made me realize how many people suffer in silence, just like I did. That realization has given me a new sense of purpose. I've started working on a book, a memoir that will tell my story in full detail, not just for me, but for others who need to know they're not alone. There have been setbacks, too. A few distant relatives tried to guilt-trip me after the email, claiming I was ruining the family's reputation. One even said I should have handled things privately. But I've stopped letting those voices get to me. I've learned that speaking the truth isn't cruel, it's necessary. Recently, I saw my brother's social media. He posted some vague status about being betrayed by family. I didn't comment, didn't message him, didn't feel anything. That's when I knew I was finally healing. The version of me from a year ago would have spiraled, questioning everything. But the person I am now sees it for what it is, another attempt to dodge accountability. What I've gone through hasn't been easy. And healing isn't a straight line. It's messy and confusing and painful. But it's also freeing. I've reclaimed my voice, my space, and my identity. To anyone listening to this who's been through something similar, please know this. You are not crazy. You're not being too sensitive. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to walk away. And you are absolutely allowed to put your own healing above the comfort of those who hurt you. This might be the last update I share for a while. Life is calm right now, and I want to hold on to that peace for as long as I can. I'm no longer chasing closure from people who refuse to give it. I'm no longer seeking validation from those who never saw my worth. I have myself now. And that, finally, is enough.